everybody, and welcome to this latest episode of Cherry Picking here on Up the Cherries in all departments. So, firstly, we have got Matt with me to my left today. How you doing,
Yeah,
Matt?
I was just there thinking I'm on the wrong side.
That's all right. That's all right.
I'm not used to being there.
You're quite. It's fine. It's fine. You know, I'm letting you. I'm letting you on the left hand side. So there we are. And just down below me, I have got Manny. How you doing, Manny?
All good, thank you. All good. Nervously excited for the start of the season. Saturday noon kickoff doesn't necessarily fill me with too much excitement, but we're up against Nottingham Forest. Matt Turner enjoying a reunion with us not too long after being on the bench for the Community Shield. Funny how things work out.
Yeah, most definitely. So, of course, we face West Ham this weekend, and well, we'll come. To be honest, there's been loads of news, hasn't there? Really, over the past week, and of course, two big pieces of news that happened yesterday evening. We'll cover all that off. Where should we start, Matt?
Well, obviously we've got the two new signings. We could start there.
Yeah, let's go for it. So, let's start off with Alex Scott. There he is, Alex Scott, in his number 14 Cherries shirt. We finally got our man, and welcome to AFC Bournemouth, Alex Scott. So, some facts about the new signing. Do you want to go through these, Matt, or shall I?
You take it away.
Right, fair enough. So, he started playing football in Guernsey at the age of 4. He was released by Southampton at 12 and then by Bournemouth at 13. He was playing in the Guernsey FC first team at the age of 16. He then moved to Bristol City and signed scholar forms with them. At 17, he was playing Bristol City's under 23s before breaking into the first team. He's had numerous midfield roles for the Robins and won the 2023 Euros with the England under 20s. So Neil Blake, AFC Bournemouth chief executive, said, "We are delighted to welcome Alex to the club, who is going to be one of the most exciting young players in Europe. He's a player that has a vast experience at such a young age with strong technical ability and a really good footballing brain. Alex will be an excellent fit in our system, and we're excited to see him continue to develop under Andoni's management." So here is his career so far. So of course, Guernsey were in the I can't say this, Isthmian League.
Isthmian League, I think that
Isthmian,
is. Isthmian, yeah.
Isthmian League. Thanks, Manny. I tell you what, I couldn't have said that. But of course, Bristol City went into the Championship and therefore was ever present, really, in the last couple of seasons, where the stats really do speak for themselves. His international career, though, look at that there. Under 18s, he's got the one appearance for them, then went straight into the under 19s where he played 12 times, scoring 1 goal, and then for the under 20s, and there's 9 appearances there. So he's a very, very, very exciting player. And I tell you what, let's go around the room. What does everybody think about Alex Scott? Because this is a player that has been so built up, but for good reasons.
Yeah, you mentioned that he's a native of Guernsey. If he can have anything like the career certain other native of Guernsey had in the Premiership and in the top divisions, I think he'll be quite lucky indeed. You probably might want to have a guess who that player is, but it's someone I'm sure you'll know quite well.
Matt Letizia.
Of course. Nothing gets by you, Mr. Beasley. Nothing gets by you. And, this is the sort of player, really, obviously one of those young Lions, who distinguished themselves in that European Championship, along with a certain James Trafford, who will be playing in the Premiership as well with Burnley. So, they're going to have a lot to catch up on, and certainly, it'll be nice of them to renew those old acquaintances. And it's just another example of how ambitious Bournemouth are being right now in the transfer market with the signings that are being made. And it's a really, really good sight to see. And this could very well be the sign of a club that is, on the way up, as it were. And it could only be good. And getting someone at his age with the talent that he has, it's just, it's terrific. It really is. And I'm really sort of speechless because I know that this is just one of a few signings that you've made. But this is the sort of talent that managers like of all these top clubs like Guardiola and Arteta would literally fall over themselves to try and sign. Maybe not so much Guardiola, but certainly managers who are trying to build a youth project, a project at the big club. They'd fall over themselves to get a player like him, and with good reason. But Bournemouth getting him can only be a real coup, and I'm excited to see how he develops. And a lot's going to hinge on the style of play that Andoni Iraola will be adopting, because it has to be a style that will really attract these new signings and really make them feel as though, yes, it is worth coming to Bournemouth, and I'm really glad to be here. Because after all of the controversy about letting Gary O'Neill go and bringing him in with reason, you want to see things work out well. So I say watch out Bournemouth. And it's funny because in the stream I was doing with Oris Talks Football, several people were predicting that West Ham would have the measure of them because, they still have a fairly decent team even without Declan Rice. But I just think that Bournemouth have been so much more proactive than West Ham. And West Ham, of course, had to wait until quite recently to get some deals done for Alvarez and Ward-Prowse, and even now Harry Maguire, who, believe it or not, might even be made club captain. Go figure. But Bournemouth are just a team on the up, and I just think I'm looking forward to this upcoming match, and I'm going to give my prediction. It should be a fairly comfortable, if not very easy, 2-1 win. I can't wait to see how the Cherries are going to play.
In fact, that's the result that I was thinking of as well. A 2-1 win, which, of course, let's go because Alex Scott won't be playing against West Ham. But let's have a look at another player, shall we? Who we signed yesterday. And that player is Max Aarons. So they said he was going to be a lily white, but he become a cherry instead. So welcome to AFC Bournemouth, Max Aarons. Do you want to take this away, Matt?
No, that's right, you can.
Go on. So Neil Blake, AFC Bournemouth Chief Executive, said, "We are thrilled to welcome Max to the club. He's a player who will be an excellent fit in our system with physical attributes and technical ability that will benefit the team and our style of play. We're looking forward to working with him, and we have no doubt that Max is going to prove a great addition to the squad." Let's have a look at the next page then. And here is his stats. So, of course, was at Norwich City for a long period of time. It's also part of the England under-19s and England under-21s as well. But a very, very exciting player there.
Yeah, very much. Both these signings excite me. This one really does excite me. He's going to be, the way he's going to fit into the attacking side of our team, it's going to be excellent. It really is. But does either of you know where he started his career before he signed for Norwich? Without Googling and cheating.
Yeah. I'm not about to do that right now. I'm in no mood to spoil the flow. Go ahead. Tell us where he started.
He actually started at Luton. And does anybody know who his other footballing cousin is?
I reckon it's somebody with a link to the football club.
Nope.
Oh, hold on a second. There was a lot on Twitter the other day about hijack. Now, I don't know whether or not this. I was guessing it was referring to Jack Stacey, but
No,
there
no,
was
no,
also
no.
a picture
It's no,
of Grealish coming up.
no, 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 mate. Nothing to do with that.
Nothing to do with that.
Absolutely not.
You're going to have to tell me now.
I'll give you a clue. He played for Newcastle, and he's now at Huddersfield.
Hmm.
He's got a very famous first name. Ronaldo Aarons.
Yes.
Ronaldo Aarons is his famous. Well, I say he's famous, but his footballing cousin.
Fair enough. Do you know what? I never thought of that. You learn something new every day. But I tell you what, this is an exciting player. You think you've got Kirkes on the left, you've got Aaron's on the right, because Aaron's, I think, is going to come straight into the squad against West Ham this weekend. I think, he's exciting, and he's a player that a lot of teams wanted. Um, there's very little criticism from the Norwich fans of him. And I do think Jack Stacey probably had a say in this. I do honestly think that, maybe when maybe maybe Max has asked, Jack Stacey's opinion. Um, but there was always that inkling when Jack Stacey went to Norwich. I might just be reading into things here, but that maybe it was sweetening them up for something.
Kind of makes it easier when you've already got a decent player to fill the boots of a player that's leaving. So,
Yeah,
yeah, there may have been a little bit of an influence also there, possibly. But just chuck it out there. Leeds loss is our gain. So happy day.
exactly. And after what they were saying about us last season, how many comments did we get after our tier list? Not the last one because they're not
Um,
in it, but the one before that,
yeah, there
where
was a
we all had.
few, and yeah, unfortunately they're eating their words now, aren't they?
They are, they are.
In the championship.
Well, there we are. That's Max Aarons. So he has become a cherry. Could have ended up at Leeds, but who wants to go there?
Oh, come on, that's a bit harsh. I mean, I've got a good mate of mine who's from Leeds, by the way, and another
Yeah.
friend that actually went over there not too long ago and said it's actually a really nice place to be. So, please tell me you're talking about the football club and not the city itself. So you
Yeah, the
don't,
football
you
club.
don't, you've cheesed off too many Yorkshiremen already, Craig. Mind it.
No, fair enough. To be honest, we got on very well with the square ball last season, so they're a good bunch. They're a good bunch, but
Oh, that they are, I'm sure.
yeah. Well, I tell you what, shall we have a look at Iraola as well, Matt?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good place to carry on with. Obviously, it's his first proper test this weekend.
Yes.
Obviously, he's done all his prepping. He's done everything he can do to prepare for the season. Obviously, they'll have a training session this morning at some point, and then it's all fingers on the buttons for West Ham.
Yeah, well, let's bring up this slide here. So we're having a detailed look at the head coach. So, of course, we've done quite a bit on Iraola, but let's go through this. So, this was Iraola's playing career. So, Baskonia is actually effectively, it's like a. I'm trying to think of what Mixel Isari said it was, but it's like a feeder club for Athletic Bilbao. And a
Yes.
Bilbao Athletic is, of course, their B team. So Baskonia was like a feeder club. Then he went into effectively the B team, and then look at that, the full team, 510 appearances, and then before moving to New York City. And then the national team is an interesting one. This So he's played 7 times for Spain, but 9 times for the Basque Country under Mikel Extari.
I
There
mean,
we are.
just from a playing perspective,
Yeah,
I mean, obviously he was a right back, full back,
yeah,
whatever you want to call him. I mean, 57 goals for a full back in 660 odd appearances isn't a
yeah.
bad ratio for a right back, is it?
No, he's very, very good.
And I think that sort of adds to his attacking, his attacking approach to coaching and management.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
most definitely.
certainly wasn't a bad player either, as 500 appearances for Bilbao would suggest. But
Yeah.
another fact is that he could have been a part of the Spain squad that won Euro 2012, but sadly got injured and couldn't make the final cut. Ended up being replaced by Atletico Madrid's Juan Francisco Torres Belén, better known as Juan Fran. So rather sad for him. He could have had the experience of a major tournament, and he certainly would have deserved it. But it is what it is, and sometimes you learn to live with the disappointments because it's a case of onwards and upwards.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's have a look at the next slide. So this is his managerial career, and some quite good win percentages there. Now, win percentages, I always say this, you've got to base it on the side that he's at. And of course, Larnaca, Cypriot side, even though that's the highest win percentage, a lot of people will say that's probably not the place he didn't probably do the best at. It was his first managerial job. And of course, in a lesser leagues, shall we say. Of course, he did play West Ham during his
Yes.
time at Larnaca, which is an
Mhm.
interesting one as well. He then went to Mirandes. Now, Mirandes are a very small club, and managed to get them in the second division, in a safe position, and was solid there. And then, and this is the big one, Rayo Vallecano. So he managed to firstly get them out of the second division. Then he managed to keep them up for 2 seasons running. Now, this is the big thing, is although a 39% win ratio, you've got to factor in that this side, Rayo Vallecano, it's it's like Rob Edwards. If Rob Edwards did a very, very good job at Luton next season and managed to, all right, temporarily get them into the Champions League places and keep them safe comfortably twice in a row, that is basically what Iraola has done at Real Vallecano. He's also beaten Barcelona on a couple of occasions and Real Madrid. So that is an outstanding achievement with a club which is unfashionable, probably like our own, with no money really whatsoever. And he's made that side into a side that is now, well, going into their third season in La Liga. An unfashionable team, taking them in, well, effectively has kept them safe 2 seasons running. So they're now next season going into their third season in La Liga. And you can kind of see why we have gone for him, can't you, Matt?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He seems to fit the. I mean, from the games we've seen during the friendlies, you can see why the club's brought him in. Obviously, the approach to the actual game itself is totally different to most managers that we've had, if not all of them. It. I just think the attacking flair that we have in the side and the way we go forward now. It is almost like this season it is going to be a case of concede 2 goals but score 3.
Yeah.
You can see that it's going to be like that. He's got the the whole sort of underdog about his managerial career. They've always overachieved, and that's kind of what we've always done since under Howe.
Yeah.
Overachieved and been the underdog. I mean, with the signings we've made in this window, Clivert, obviously Max Aarons and Scott today. I think those players are all going to fit in very, very well into his philosophy.
Yeah.
And I honestly do think that we've predicted in the tier list that we'll finish at 11th.
Yeah.
I think we got a real chance of that now. Yesterday, was it yesterday or Wednesday, when I was on the when we did the head to head with the players that West Ham were potentially bringing in. I thought, right, okay, possibly we might get a draw Saturday, but now we've brought, Max Aarons in. Obviously, Scott won't be available due to injury, but I mean, now we brought Max Aarons in, and with players like Brooksy back on form, I think we will beat West Ham now. I really do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can see why the likes of Blake and Hughes have tracked him. I'd imagine, he's been on their radar since he turned Leeds down, which, you can see why now from watching the friendlies. For those that have seen the friendlies, you can see why the club have gone in this direction.
Yeah.
And I think a few of the signings were probably made with, from January, like I think you've also said, Craig. Some of the January signings possibly may have been made with it, with him in mind,
Yeah.
to be taken over eventually. But yeah, I mean it's really exciting times. I mean, as we get closer to the season, I mean tomorrow I'll be like a kid on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
It's going to be really. I mean, like last year, we're going to the Villa game and we're like, if we get a point out of this, it'd be a decent result. If we finish 17th, we would have punched above our weight. This season, we're actually looking at it from a different. Well, I know not all supporters are, but I'm looking at it from a different approach that we should have a pretty decent season.
Yeah. Completely agree. I think the optimism now within the fan base is, sky high. We've got such a chance of really kicking on now. And, some people still turn around and say, oh, you've got a small stadium, you shouldn't be in the Premier League and all that rubbish. But, we have got a chance now to kick on, make our name in this division, and really push up the league. I know that Bill Foley has mentioned Europe before. Now, that's not going to happen overnight. That's, we're not going to think, right, this season we're going to shoot straight into the Europa League places or the Europa Conference League place. No, not at all. But within a couple of seasons, maybe 3-4 seasons, that could be a possibility. That's exciting, really, isn't it?
I mean, for me, I think a simpler way of saying what you've just said there is this is laying the foundations for the next step.
Yeah.
And I really do think that. I mean, Max Aarons, I cannot wait to see him in a Cherries shirt. Cannot wait.
Yeah.
And him and Kirk has the other side. What a fullback pairing that is.
Yeah. Is that a new picture of our new ground, Matt?
That is. Do you know what? I don't know whose ground that is.
We'll take it though. We'll take it.
Yeah, that would do.
Yeah,
Something like
yeah,
that.
that would do. Yeah, I'd be quite happy with that.
Whether we'd
It
fill it
probably
or
is a
not.
bit too big. Yeah, it's probably a bit too big at the
Oh,
moment.
it's Athletic Bilbao, isn't it?
Yes, 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 it is. Yeah.
I think it's because I couldn't find a decent picture of the other stadiums that he actually managed at. So I stuck that one in.
No, that's fair enough. I can understand why you've done that. Right, let's have a look at the next bit. So, facts from 2022 23. So, La Liga, 13 wins, 15 defeats, 10 draws. Remember the size of the club. And then Copa del Rey, managed 3, won 1, drawn 1, lost 1. But remember as well, he has got teams into the semi-final of the Copa del Rey. And there we are. There's the Rayo Vallecano style as well. High turnovers, second in the Liga. Shot ending turnovers, 56. First. Look at those stats. You can see now, if anybody was doubting, saying, right, okay, why do you get rid of Gary O'Neill and pick Iraola? Yes, now, don't get me wrong. I'm a big Gary O'Neill fan. And,
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. He did what he was asked from him
Yeah.
last season,
Yeah.
and I think he was very dignified in the way he did it, very analytical, very astute with what the way he approached games. Yeah, he didn't get things right all the time, and to be fair, there was points like Leeds away, Spurs at home, where you said, right, okay, he's made a right cock up of that. But he learned from those. Towards the end of the season, I don't get this fan base sometimes where they slated Gary O'Neill, but, and this is a big but, you can see why they've made the decision to, effectively, Iraola has become available. It's either you take Iraola now or somebody else gets him. And Bill Foley at the time made that decision to go, right, we want this man. We've been tracking him for so long, which I think we were. I think there's probably, if you go back to the Bielsa days when they were talking about Bielsa, they thought, right, we've got to do it now. And they went for it, went for the juggler, got the man. And high turnover. Tell you what, that's outstanding when you consider teams in there. Shot
Yes.
ending turnovers. You'd expect, let's be fair, you'd expect fourth would be good on that because you'd think Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Barcelona. You could probably put Villarreal in there. You could probably put Athletic Bilbao in there. So we're talking already probably sixth is a good place, which is the shots ratio for Rayo Vallecano, a team who are probably Spain's equivalent of Luton Town. That is outstanding. I'm sorry, but that's outstanding. Possession, eighth. And of course, when they're not in possession, they do the high press. They make teams make mistakes at the back. And I'll tell you what, I've seen quite a bit of Rayo Vallecano now. I knew about them, knew about Iraola back then. However, I've of course taken a bit more of an interest in them since. And let's be fair, they're a tiny club. They got a three-sided stadium as well, I believe. With that high press from the front. So I don't think they've actually built a Ted shed yet. When we move, we can send them ours.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, you can see why, with his stats, why, they've made that, their ambition lies with this kind of manager.
Yeah, definitely. It's so exciting. And like you say, it is like waking up on Christmas Day, isn't it? Well, it will be on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be on Saturday. What time are we getting to the pub, Matt? We'll work it out.
Probably about 11:30 because I believe there's a certain England ladies team playing. Is it 11:30 they're playing on Saturday?
Oh, there is, isn't there?
Yep,
There we
half
are.
11.
Yeah.
There we are. Well,
I'd like to watch that and give the ladies my support.
yes, we shall do. We shall do. And we will be there very early. Right, next part. So, Mind Reader. Believe it or not, I haven't looked in advance at these. So, after playing under him, Iraola's history with Marcelo Bielsa has influenced Iraola now that he is in the dugout. The former right back played under him for 2 years during his time in charge of Athletic Club Bilbao and counts the former Whites boss, who has just been named Uruguay's new head coach, as one of his biggest influences. I was very lucky to play for him for 2 seasons as a player, says Iraola. I think he has another vision of football. They were 2 very good seasons for us, and for me, it was different knowledge. I use a lot of exercises from Marcelo that I learned from him. I use a lot of things, especially with the ball. Offensively, his teams are very dynamic. He is willing to make all the runs to space. He is ready to accept this kind of disorder offensively. And do you know what? I think Marcelo Bielsa is a man that did an outstanding job at Leeds to get them promoted. I really do. I really do. And then continue that in the following season. Um, he is like, he's incredibly knowledgeable. If you've ever, Marcelo Bielsa, a lot of people will say, remember him from that time with Argentina. And if you consider, and if you've ever watched anything where Marcelo Bielsa's speaking, it's normally subtitled, his knowledge of the game is outstanding. There's reasons why, the club would have loved to have brought him in last season, but he's a manager that doesn't come in mid-seasons, and we said that at the time, didn't we?
Yeah.
So yeah, learning from the professor of football, and of course, like I say, if anybody hasn't watched it yet, once you finish watching this show, go and watch that. I had to narrate it all, and the main reason I had to narrate it all was because Mikel Exari's English is very, very basic, but he was incredibly interesting, and such a gentleman as well, but incredibly interesting what he said about Iraola, Lopetegui, Unai Emery, Arteta, Xabi Alonso, and the way they think. And Marcelo Bielsa, although he's an Argentine coach, I think he buys into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there we are. And here we are. Eddie Howe versus Iraola. Now, one thing I can notice there is, okay, they're not identical. You're taking the time at Newcastle, which, yeah, probably Newcastle. But I wonder if you looked at his time with us during one season. I'm trying to think. If we went slap bang in the middle, so the 2017-2018 season, I would probably have a small bet, because I wouldn't be 100% sure, but I'd probably, without looking at it, say that Howe's record was very similar to Iraola's that season.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So this is in comparison with Howe's performances with Bournemouth, right?
No, with Newcastle. So this is Eddie last season. But I think if you looked at like maybe the 2017-2018 season at Bournemouth, I reckon it would probably echo what Iraola did with Rayo Vallecano last season.
Yeah.
That was the crux of the question, because obviously when you take a look at the PPG of Eddie Howe, I mean, the numbers and the colours speak for themselves, really.
Yeah.
I mean, let's discount the FA Cup, 1 game, 1 loss, lottery, as we all know. And certainly Howe was the type of manager who was able to, get teams to punch above their weight, and Iraola could very well be in that Eddie Howe mold. So I just wonder, though, because you mentioned there, Craig, that Iraola played under Marcelo Bielsa for about 2 seasons. I
Yeah,
just wonder, though, if those 2 seasons, because bear in mind, he was with Bilbao for the best part of more than 10 seasons, racked up 500 appearances. And
yeah.
yes, players will always have favorite managers and so forth. I just wonder if those 2 seasons under Bielsa were enough for Iraola to really glean every single thing. And we also might need to consider at what stage did he play under Bielsa. Because if it was towards the end of his time with Bilbao, near the end of his career, then you could say that that could have left a lasting impression. But somewhere in the beginning or the middle, I'm not too sure about that, to be honest.
I think it was in the middle from my beliefs. I believe it was around about 2007. I might be wrong. Might be wrong. I'm saying that off the top of my head here. But the one thing and the point I think I'm making here is that Iriola plays in a similar way to what Bielsa would, and I think that he's. I think, well, it's that pressing style. It's making mistakes. I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. Should we have a look at the next slide, because I think we do have another comparison here. Right. Okay. Now, this is with Steve Cooper, of course, a Nottingham Forest manager. Um, Forest ended the season decently, really. Survived from the Premier League. It's looked at one point, they didn't get off to a very good start, really, did they? They looked like they were going to be right up against it. But Iriola, with a lot less money to spend. I've got to say that it's a lot less money to spend at Rayo Vallecano as to what Steve Cooper spent last season at Forest. Well, those figures speak for themselves.
They do, absolutely.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's quite a good comparison, really.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Because I mean, I know it's two different leagues and different competitions and that, but I mean, when you look at the win percentage, you know, it's quite a lot better really than Cooper's, isn't it?
Hmm.
I should have really complied Gary O'Neill's stats, but
It would have
didn't
been
do that.
difficult because it wasn't a full season,
That's
really. But
that's what I've done here. You see, it's only
yeah,
managers that were in for a full season.
yeah,
There is a little bit further on where we do compare some different clubs, which will be interesting as well because they didn't have managers for full seasons. But we'll have a look at that shortly.
right. Let's go on to the next one then. David Moyes. So
Mm.
Moyes had
Could
a
be
very, very good season with regards to Europe.
yes. Now that's the thing that really does stand out there. You can see how they struggled in the Premier League. But yeah, what great stats though for Europe. Obviously they won it, so they're going to be good stats, aren't they? But
Yeah.
yeah, the thing is with Moyes, I mean, there's still a lot of news circulating about his future.
Mm.
Um, whether he may even be in the dugout tomorrow or not.
Well, exactly. But
Yeah.
Iriola's, I think his figures again look pretty decent against West Ham's in the Premier League,
Mm.
and the cups I wouldn't worry too much about. But especially in La Liga, when you
Yeah.
consider the size of West Ham and the size of Rayo Vallecano, you've got a side that are small in La Liga, and they are small in a decent league, one of the top 5 leagues in the world. Um, you know, again, very, very, very good figures. Let's have a look at the next comparison, shall we? And Mikel Arteta. So Mikel Arteta, of course, the Arsenal manager. Now, Arteta, of course, is a Basque manager, very, very much like Iriola. I know it's quite unfair probably to compare Arteta against Iraola because
No, it
Arteta,
isn't. Keep going. Keep going. I want to hear what you have to say.
but
this, this, this this is in there because they're more from the same. You know, they were
yeah,
influenced by the same coach, weren't they?
yeah,
You interviewed him, Craig.
yeah, Mikel
Um,
Sarri,
yeah. So rather than really looking at the stats here, it's more like a comparison of two managers from the same coach, if you like,
yeah.
influenced by the same coach.
But you look also at, with regards to, let's have a look at the win category. Of course, Arsenal,
Mm,
near come close to winning the Premier League last season. That's
mm,
always going to be up there. But the defeats category. Now, 9 defeats might sound a lot, and it probably is a lot. But again, look at the size of the teams. Look at the amount of expense on those teams, and that is pretty good. Now, if Iraola can achieve even just part of what Arteta has, we're in for a very, very exciting season.
I
yeah.
couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Because, I mean, last season, I will say right now, with Arteta, was probably a bit of an anomaly. We had a huge start where we won 9 of our first 10 games, including, of course, beating you lot at Dean Court. I'm sorry, but I have to, mention that.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, Manny.
no, but listen, you should have beaten us at the Emirates, and you were good
Yeah.
value for 3 points, not just one. And I was, in as much as I was at least happy that we got the 3 points, I was choked for you lot. You deserved so much better from that. But last season was a bit of an anomaly, and the way we just sort of didn't make the best use of that and capitulated near the end, it just was something that really still leaves a sour taste in people's mouths to this very day. And I often think that the best way for comparison would be, to compare Arteta's first full season with what he's done with Iraola. In his first season, mind you, at one point he couldn't even buy a home win and had us 15th in the league at one time. Then recovered well enough to finish 8th, although we missed out on a Europa League final, losing to our ex-manager Unai Emery and his Villarreal team, the Yellow Submarine. And again, with the Europa League, if you take a look at Arteta's stats, they're quite misleading because, yes, we qualified from the group stages with a record of played 6, won. I think we won 5. No, we won 4, drew 1, and lost 1. But then, of course, we weren't able to go through the next stage. We lost to Sporting Lisbon in those farcical circumstances. So again, you can talk about the points per game. Of course, in cups, technically you don't get awarded points. I do like the stats that Iraola has had with Vallecano. And, he's kept them at a sort of a mid-table region, 13 wins, 10 draws, enough to sort of keep them up and sort of make them punch above their weight. And they have, of course, as you mentioned, upset the big boys. And it will be interesting to see the type of squad he has to work with now and what he gets with them. And I'm very interested to see the matchup between Arsenal and Bournemouth, both at Dean Court and at the Emirates, because it's said that Iraola likes to play a rather expansive sort of game. This is something that Arteta will like to do. But what you guys did that day at the Emirates, you took advantage of our, whenever we try to play the high line, we leave ourselves exceptionally weak at the back. We might have addressed that situation by getting Yuri and Timber, although I like him more as a right back than a left back. And yet, I see Bournemouth's expansive style being enough to possibly once again take advantage of that if we are just too sloppy and lackadaisical and not careful. And crucially, with the signing of Aarons, he's been coveted by so many top Premier League clubs. We were eager to sign him at one stage. I mean, we do have Timber now, but I wouldn't have said no to Aarons. No way. So I'm looking forward to seeing how well Iraola does against Arsenal. I think that could be, a match where we could potentially see an upset. Maybe, I mean, I don't know if I can actually predict a shock win at the Emirates like you almost had, but Dean Court will not be an easy place to come and play this season. Mark my words.
No, most
Yeah, let's hope so. Hope you're right, Manny. There, I hope you're right.
Right, let's have a look at the next slide. So what we've done here is we've looked at Rayo Vallecano's stats against 3 Premier League sides, and we've picked Aston Villa, Everton, and Wolves. So all 3 sides, of course, stayed up, but I think that, wow, it's remarkable, really, when you look at it. There's only Villa, really, and who have bettered Rayo Vallecano's figures.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously we used Villa because Emery took over.
Yeah.
Again, who is from? Is it the Basque country they call it?
Yep. Basque
Yep.
Country. Yep.
Same influence as Arteta. Obviously, then we picked Everton because they were in the relegation battle,
Yep.
as were Wolves for a little bit.
And of course,
They
Wolves were under Lopetegui as well at the time.
yeah,
And
again,
of course, I'm sure. I don't know if you've heard the big news from Molyneux, but you will be discussing it later on. But keep going.
Yep. Oh, yes, we do. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if we'll be discussing it much in this episode of Cherry Picker because Craig's already done an 18-minute video about it. So,
Yes.
if you want if you want to know the views on that, there's an 18-minute video for you to tune into.
Oh, mate, I saw that video before coming, as in preparation for possibly at least saying a few things about that. And if I could just say this quickly, one thing which I really would have liked you lot to do is sort of have a comparison between. I take the point that Gary didn't have a full season with
Mhm.
Bournemouth, but if you could have compared those stats from the season and then Iraola's stats with Vallecano, that would have been a decent metric. You could have compared the styles and so forth. Because now, if I take a look at Wolves, I see they had 11 wins and 19 losses. And of course, before Lopetegui took over, they were an absolute mess. I think their home record was what kept them up. Now, O'Neill's going to be coming to a team where they've lost quite a few of their star players. Ruben Neves is one of those players who has sort of headed the exodus. But this, of course, could be a chance to try and start something from scratch and maybe try and rebuild the team, as it were, try and get some sort of a philosophy going and maybe take the lessons he's learned with them. So I'm interested to see the matchups both at Dean Court and at Molyneux. And yeah, you also mentioned Aston Villa were the only team to really do better than them. Of course, Unai Emery took over midway, and he got them playing a very expansive style of football. I think one thing which I can say about Emery is that he does tend to get very defensive near the end of the game when it comes to protecting a lead, and that's a very risky strategy when it comes to protecting when it comes to seeing out a game, especially since he does have the players who can continue to attack if he can bring them off the bench. So again, I don't know if any of us have really seen too many La Liga games to really talk about how Iraola can protect a lead or so. So I think Iraola should have a really good time against teams like Everton because I think it has to be said the Toffees can't score for Toffee. 35 goals that season is a testament to that. And the Wolves aren't exactly hunting well in their pack either. 31 goals says it all. So these teams could be in for a shellacking from Iraola's boys, especially if he gets them, playing very well from the back and up the midfield.
Yeah, let's be honest. Everton were shocking last season, and Dycheball, and I think Wolves. I think O'Neill will do well there. To be perfectly honest, but going back to what we've got, I think the other thing as well you've got to keep in mind is, and I did criticise Gary O'Neill for this, is because we went very defensive at times, didn't
Oh,
we?
yes.
And
Yes.
against Brighton away, went defensive, conceded. Went against Leeds, 3-1 up. Went defensive, lost 4-3. Spurs at home. I could go over it all again. But what we've now got, I think, is the players to be able to do that, but in a different sort of way. If we do it the right way, I think then you can in this division protect a lead, but it's not like Scott Parker did against Liverpool, just stick everybody behind the ball. That doesn't work. That doesn't work in this division. But you can protect a lead, but you do it in the right way.
Absolutely. There's always a right way to protect a lead, and I'm very glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, definitely. Let's have a look at the next one. Pre-season form. So it's been a bit of a mixed bag. Of course, 3 wins, 2 defeats. But the Hibernian win 4-0. Maccabi Tel Aviv, a 1-0 defeat. I think the players at that point were trying to get used to this system, this high intensity press.
Yeah, I
So
mean, pre-season is exactly for that, isn't it?
exactly.
So I mean, we don't want to look too deep into the results in terms of it's just interesting to see. I mean, the good thing for me there is that there's goals in all those games, apart from obviously the Tel Aviv game. We've scored in all the others. So for me, that just proves, that the style of play, the players are adapting to that style of play. So I think from looking at that, it's very promising.
Yep, couldn't agree more with that. So there we are. That is Iraola. And of course, we get down to proper business this weekend against West Ham United. So, where should we go next?
Well, should we look at picking our lineup for
Yeah, let's
Saturday?
do it. Let's do it. So, who will be in Iraola's first starting lineup? So, here is the 3 goalkeepers. Let's be honest, I think there's only one choice for this.
At the moment, there is, which is obviously Neto.
Yeah.
I think Radu is going to push him, so it's going to be some good competition there. But I just want to give a little shout out to Randolph here.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you ever watch like the footage they put on the website,
Yes.
the club website and stuff. But he seems to be doing that kind of Scott Carson role that was doing at City. I don't know if he's still doing it there, where he was third choice, happy to be third choice, but was a real presence and a bit of an influencer within the side.
Yeah.
He puts his arm around a player and, he seems to be doing that kind of role. So where he's lacking in game time, he appears to be making up in other areas, which is very important for the changing room.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, he's a full professional, and I think, full credit to him. Is he going to get game time? Well, I would hope that he would get some game time in the cups, but it would have to be a real injury crisis for him to get some game time in the Premier League. But
Yeah, the sad thing about Randolph is that for quite some time he was the Republic of Ireland's number 1, and of course he was the starting goalkeeper at Euro 2016, finally
yeah,
ending Shay Given's long run, and performed quite well. And he was supposed to, of course, kick on. I think his club situation really affected his, form, because he wasn't getting much game time at West Ham, and now it's really saddening that at this stage in his career, when he should be looking to try and continue to play for his country, he's now sort of accepted his move into retirement. And I was having a debate not too long ago, in fact, earlier today, with a few friends on Instagram chat, where I said that I'm not really one of those people who believes in this idea of having this luxury of a third goalkeeper who will never get any game time, but will just be a presence around the squad. Because when it comes to goalkeepers, I think both of you can agree with me that if they don't get any game time, they will effectively waste away to nothing. And in this day and age, when you've got so many players, the likes of the now recently retired Gianluigi Buffon wanting to continue to play no matter what, that so much that he went back to his uh, old club Parma in his mid-40s and actually did quite well over there, even though the team didn't achieve their ambition of getting promoted to Serie A. He actually still showed that he was more than capable of doing a decent job, although it must be said that his best days were behind him. So I just don't really subscribe to this idea that, if you are willing to waste your career away by training hard, being a good professional, and sort of having a yes sir, no sir, three bags full sir attitude when it comes to game time, then you can be a model professional. Because that means that if you take someone like Emi Martinez, who walked away from Arsenal because he wasn't going to be the starting goalkeeper for one season, which he deserved to be, in my opinion. People like him get criticised as, mentally weak and unwilling and not having the stomach to really fight hard and make a contribution. And I'm sorry, but in as much as football may be a team game, players have individual desires and dreams. And that's why I think if you have the desire to play, I think I can have some more respect for you. I suppose maybe Randolph is coming close to his 40s. He is close to his retirement, but still, it's just sad to see how things have, faded away for him. But I suppose, if Bournemouth are happy to have him, if the fans do love him, and if he feels as though he really enjoys what he does, then I suppose fair play to him. Won't do his bank balance much harm, would it?
No, no, most
So,
not.
so we're gonna settle on Neto here then.
Yes.
Yep. Neto,
Does he
definitely.
keep the armband?
Yes, he
Yes.
does.
Yes, he does. Yeah, cool. I'm happy with that. Right. Should we have a look at the next one?
Go for it, Matt. Go for it.
Right. Now, there was only two names on here, and then we signed a certain Aaron's. So, for me, personally, these three start on Saturday. I don't know what you think, but for me, they start.
Are these your central defenders, or because Aaron's is a right back, though, isn't he?
Yeah, so it's two fullbacks and Marcus Sensei.
Ah, right.
Yeah, I
That's
can't disagree with that. I think Kirke's left, Aaron's right, Senesi on in the middle. It depends whether or not Iraola goes to a 4-4-2 formation, but I don't think he probably will. I think Zabania might get a nod if that happens, but I think that's probably what it's going to look like.
Well, I personally think it would be these three plus well, let's have a look. So are we going for these three to start?
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Okay, so these three, obviously there's injuries there. Fredericks ain't fit. Smith's had a knock, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Now Hill was filling in at right back and did a fairly decent job, but he's not going to play ahead of Max Aarons.
I think he'll be on the bench though.
So Kelly's still got a knock, I believe.
Yeah.
So out of these two, who starts alongside Marcus Senesi?
Zabania.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
agreed.
Personally.
I know Mepham's done some good things for Wales, but it's all about Bournemouth at the moment. Although, if I don't see Iraola playing a back five, because one thing which seems to connect these Basque managers, Emery, Arteta, and company, they like a back four. You will never see them playing a back five. You will never see them going too defensive. So, Zabani for me.
Yeah.
Zabania, definitely.
Yeah, carry on, Craig.
Right. So let's go on to the next screen. So the first names on the team sheet for the midfield wingers attack. So Philip, we should call him now.
Yeah.
Philip. Not Phil Bill anymore. He's just going by the name of Philip. So
yeah.
yeah, I think he's probably got to get the nod. Now, David Brooks has had a very, very good pre-season, and he's like a new signing himself.
Absolutely.
But then again, I think Billings got to start. Brooks
Starts for me.
He's had a great pre-season. He's had a great pre-season. Now,
Got to start him. Got to start him, I think. I mean, he's been on fire, isn't he?
He has, yeah, he has. I'm just, hopefully, fingers crossed, he's able to cope with 90 minutes in the Premier League, which I think he probably is, but
he should be by now.
Yeah, I think he's looked after himself and he's put in the training sessions and put in the work to get himself back to where he is. And full credit to him.
Absolutely.
My only question is, what does that leave with Ryan Christie? Because I think Christie's done very well, last season. But we'll come to that probably. We'll come to that. Let's have a look. So Kilkenny, Lewis Cook, of course, dropped the L, and Joe Rothwell. See, midfield for me is a difficult one because we've got so much quality there. Now, Rothwell is an excellent player. Pinpoint passes, I really rate him. I really like him. He's a little bit different from the rest of the midfielders.
I think Kilkenny will fall short. I think he had a good pre-season. I mean, the couple of games, the Hibernian game, I thought he played well.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to fall short with the likes of Cook, Rothwell that are ahead of him. I think he will fall a bit short.
Well, I don't know about Lewis Cook. I think, there's a lot of question marks. There's so much. What's good about this is it's difficult to pick a side now because of the quality we've got. Because, of course, we've got a certain man on the left-hand side. And, of course, we've got Jaden Anthony as well. Shall we go to the next screen? Because I'm sure he'll pop up in a second. There he is on the far right-hand side. Should be on the left. But Christie, I really like Ryan Christie. But
yeah, I do. I'm a big fan of Christie.
We've got so much quality in midfield that
playing a deeper role as well with Christie, which I think he did. Was it against Southampton? If I remember rightly. In the friendly, he played deeper, and I think he set up Dango's goal, didn't he?
Yeah,
from that deep role. So that's a good attribute.
Hamid Traore, was excellent until, of course, his injury last season. I really rate him. I really, really like him. This is such a difficult.
See, for me, I think for me at the moment, Kluivert will be on the bench as an option. As an option for me, as a option, as a plan B, as a different option. I think Brooksy and Dango start. And I think possibly it's a toss between Cook, Rothwell, and Christie for the other places.
It's interesting.
Obviously, Billings going to be playing higher up, behind the front man. So for me, Billings in. Phil, whatever you want to call him, but I'm calling him Billing for now. So he's in for me. For
top billing, as it were.
Yeah, top billing, yeah.
I would probably play Kluivert on the left, but then again, like you say, Dongo Atara hasn't done anything wrong.
No, and I just think that, if it gets to sort of like, half time maybe, or if it gets to like the 60th minute and we need a bit more energy, we need someone different, someone a bit more, that's going to give the game an edge. You bring this guy on and he can turn the game on its head.
It's a nice problem to have, this, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, Traore, what a class player.
It's quality.
Traore, do you know what I mean? It's gonna be such an interesting lineup for on Saturday. It really is.
I can't think of, I don't think we've got a bad midfielder. Kilkenny's a player, okay, he went to Stoke last season, was on loan, but he's a good midfielder. He's really, I think, I've seen him in pre-season. I think, he's got so many qualities. Maybe he's not the finished articles yet, or some, you could say that, or maybe he's further down the pecking order at this football club. But at the same time, I can't say we've got a bad midfielder, and you're picking and you're choosing out of just quality.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Before we go any further, then who we chucking in? Or do you want to carry on and then we make a decision?
My question is, what sort of formation do you want to see play? Because I'm thinking that he might go with a 4-4-2. But you were talking, Matt, about possibly having Phil playing behind the strikers. So would you want a 4-4-1-1 or something like that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to go for.
I think that's where it's going to go. Yeah.
Okay, so I think the nice thing about that is that you effectively have, 4 midfielders and attacking midfielder. That leaves you with a lot more room to maneuver. So I'm thinking you could have Lewis Cook and Rothwell in there, and Ryan Christie gets in. So it will be a toss-up between Traore and Justin Kluivert. And I want to ask you, gentlemen, how did you rate these two blokes in their pre-season, Traore and Kluivert?
Kluivert, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. I think he come on second half, was it, against Hibs, and literally within about 2, 3, 4 minutes, I think he'd set up Billing for a goal. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people will be saying he's in their starting lineup, but I just think if I was the manager and I needed a plan B, I needed something a bit different. But don't forget, Kluivert can also play central as well as out on the wing. So,
see, is that this is I'm finding it difficult because I think Atara hasn't done anything wrong. Brooks, like you say, on the right hand side, but then again, Christie, I think deserves probably a shout. Do we play Kluivert in the centre instead?
but then where do you put Billing? You don't want to play Billing deeper, do you?
No, we put Billing up front. We put Billing just behind Solanke, so more advanced.
So you're talking Christie being in the centre mid with someone like Rothwell or Cook. Or who does he go on the flank for? Brooks or Dongo? It's good, isn't it? It's a good headache to have.
Headache is right.
It's like putting chess pieces together, really, this.
Isn't it?
We've not had this before.
I'll tell you what. Let's just have another look. Flick on to the next one, Craig. Right.
Well, it gets even harder because
Tavernier is actually injured.
Yeah. But when he comes back...
But if he wasn't, how much harder would it be? You got Anthony who can do a job. You got Dango, who I think has been absolutely fantastic. And like you say, he hasn't put a foot wrong, so why shouldn't he start? Can you see, like, if you chucked Tavs in as well?
Yeah, this is really difficult. I would say I would start with... Now, could you go like this? So, Dongo on the left, Brooks on the right. Let's go with Brooksy.
So we're going with Brooksy for definite, yeah?
Yeah, let's go for Brooksy on the right because he has had a good pre-season.
It's
unfair on Ryan Christie, but, at the end of the day, could we play Kluivert in midfield, but Billing in an advanced position? But who partners Kluivert in midfield?
Yeah,
Rothwell?
he wouldn't play in central midfield.
Or here's another question: do both Billing and Kluivert play a little bit more advanced and can drop back? Or am I creating something here that might be?
I actually would like to see Dongo start as the striker with Billing sort of either behind or alongside him. And the midfield, Kluivert could be on the left, Brooksy on the right, and maybe Lewis Cook and Rothwell. Or if you think that you want to have someone different from Cook and Rothwell, you can probably add someone like maybe a Christie or even a Traore, anyone you want. Because I'm really excited by Kluivert, not just because his father was an absolute legend, but you've heard of the saying "a chip off the old block," right? And
Yeah,
Kluivert is one of those really. I wouldn't say funny, but rather it's interesting because with his heritage and with his status, he is 24 years old, and of course was a big part of the Ajax academy, and then played for Ajax for 2 seasons, and then Roma. Lost his way a bit with a few loan deals, and should by now have been an established international with the Dutch team, but never really got the chance. But I would like to think that the way the Dutch are going now, it will be any port in the storm. And coming to Bournemouth is sort of like a new chance for him. And what he lends to any team, I think he should definitely be given a chance to really show what he can do. And he scored more than a few decent goals. Yeah, I'm really excited by Kluivert. I think, if you really want to have a team that can represent the best of the expansive attacking football that Iraola would like to play, then Kluivert has to be in with a shout, and I would have him on the left, really.
right. I think our defence is sorted. Midfield, we could be here all day. But Matt, what would you go with?
I'll bring it up in a second. I'll bring it up. Do you want to have a look at the forwards?
Yeah, let's go for the forwards. So, of course, we got Solanke, Semenyo, and Moore. I think Moore has done pretty well in pre-season. He seems like, again, he's a different style, which is actually suiting him. But I think that Iraola will go with Solanke, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Should we have a little look what you've selected?
Yeah. 1 second. There we go.
Look at that. So, Lewis Cook, Christie, Dongo, Billing, and Solanke. Solid side, isn't it? It's a solid side. It's it's going to be one of those when we're sat there and the teams come out. Like we look at the Sky Sports app, don't we? When the teams come out.
Yeah.
I can't think of any occasions where we can say, "Oh, hold on a minute," because I don't think we're going to have a problem like that. I don't think we're going to have a situation like where we're going, "What's he doing? What's he doing wrong there?" Because the quality we've got at this moment.
Then again, if you see Moore starting up front after his efforts last week against Llorente, you wouldn't be surprised.
No, I wouldn't be. I think
I just think this is such. I think he's in, even with the injuries he's got. I mean, like Semenyo there, he's still coming back from a knock, isn't he? So I don't think whether he's ready or match fit yet. But you think when these injured players come back, when Fredericks is back, Smith comes back, if he's not fit already, and then you got the competition between 3 right backs there: Aaron Smith, who's a club legend, and Ryan Fredericks. I mean, it's you can see there's more depth in the squad this season, and you can see how there's some real competition for places.
Well, let's be fair. It's been difficult to actually pick this side,
hasn't it? this is why I thought this was a good little topic, because it's like, if you were manager and you had to name your squad, who would you name in it? And, you know, in comparison to last season's, you can see with the 2 transfer windows that have just been and gone, well,
Yeah.
one we're still in, but, you know, January and this one, how much depth that we've added. Okay, yes, we have lost players as well, but the depth, the quality, there seems to be a lot more quality there. And you know, with a complete fit squad, you've got some real interesting issues, problems. You know, we're picking. You know, you're going to disappoint somebody, aren't you? Um,
Mm.
I just think I just can't wait to see his first lineup.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Well, that is, it's such an interesting thing to do because it's, I was trying to play around with the formations there, Matt, as well, as you could probably tell
Yeah,
when I sat there, trying to fit players in, and thinking, right, okay, play that person, but you know, he's got a tough task on his hands, hasn't he?
but from a manager's perspective, it's a great problem to
Great,
have.
yeah, exactly. We have got one last little bit as well that we're just going to quickly run through now, and this is it. Last season on their contract, should Phil Bill and Christie be offered new deals? So Phil Bill, there's the stats there.
So what do you think, Craig, on Phil Bill? If you were, say, his agent,
hmm
what would you be doing right now?
I think that Phil Bill is probably being, or his agent would probably be having conversations. He is 27 years old, so he's probably hitting his prime now. Um, I personally would offer him a new deal. Now, how long is that new deal going to be? I would say probably. Well, we could easily offer him a 4-year contract, but I think his price is going to go up. Um, and the thing is it's always a difficult one because Phil Bill's been such a good servant to us that we didn't we don't want to we didn't want to sell him, but we don't want to lose him for nothing really. He's too good a player to lose for nothing, and I'd definitely be negotiating now. I'd be negotiating at this point. Um, you know, Even if it's not to keep Phil Bill for the duration, to make sure we get a fee for the player.
Okay.
And then we've got Ryan Christie. Um, this is a difficult one because Ryan Christie, like I say, I really like him. Really like him. Now, this again depends on, I think it needs to be done sooner rather than later because it will really depend on how much football. Ryan Christie is that sort of player, I think, where he wants football. And if he's not getting played because we've got talent and we're awash with talent, he might think, in fact, I'm not playing much here. Maybe it's time for me to move on. I hope that's not the case, but it could very well be. So,
Yeah.
personally, I would offer them both new contracts. Um, both of them are worthy of a fee, but it's whether or not billing. In the case of billing, I think it was going to be suitors. That will be. His agent's probably trying to get the best deal for both himself and also the player. With regards to Ryan Christie, I think it's going to be a case of right. Okay, he'd be happy. You know, if Brooks was on the bench every game and Ryan Christie was playing every match. That's my honest opinion with regards to this.
Okay. Okay.
Regardless, if one or both of them go, we're losing either one or two very good players.
Yes, but is it anything to do with this?
Christie maybe, because you could say this for any player in the squad that dips. You could say this for any, but do you go with your tried and tested, which is what Billing and Christie are, or do you go with somebody who is progressive, young, fresh, and somebody who can possibly take you on to the next level? There's no guarantees. There's no guarantees that Alex Scott and Max Aarons are going to be successes here. The it's more than likely that they will be because of what they've done previously. But at the same time, these players that we've got, Billing is proven. I don't know whether or not Christie want to play second fiddle. He might want to go to get more football. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But I would be negotiating with both of them, because there's always that possibility that, in Ryan Christie's case, that we could send him out on loan.
Here's another way of looking at it. So we brought Max Aarons in.
Yeah.
Now, Manny, who's completely neutral here, loves Max Aarons, thinks he's a quality player.
Yeah.
I do.
We let Stacey go on a free. We didn't renew his contract, and we bring in a player the caliber of Max Aarons. Now, what point I'm trying to make here, a contract negotiations not happening because we know they can do a job this season, but next pre-season we want to bring in a higher caliber player?
Very possible. Very possible. It depends where we are at the end of the season.
Yeah. Now, if we take a step forward this season, like we hope we are going to, like we should do, to take that next step again, is Billing and Christie the faces that are going to do it, or is there plans to bring players in of a higher caliber?
It's a good point. And I think probably,
as you look at Alex Scott, one for the future. Yeah. So he develops for a few seasons. Yeah. Max Aarons is already a quality player. Premier League experience. I think he's won the championship twice. Stacey goes. Aarons comes in. So how would you rate Stacey and Aarons? Is Stacey better than Aarons? I would say Aarons is a lot better than Stacey, and I rated Stacey. I did rate Stacey. Thought when he was here, he put a good shift in. But can you compare them in terms of quality? Aarons has more quality.
Oh, most definitely.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I think you've got to look as well at the age of the player as well. And like Ryan Christie, 28 years old, at the end of, in February, he's 29. Now, he's not going to he'll want to be playing regularly. Now, he could play regularly in the Premier League for another club. But considering the journey that we are on, I don't think that club's us.
Yeah.
Billing, 27 years old. Of course, he's 28 next year, I believe, without checking it again. But again, it's a very good point. It's a very, very good point. He's been great servants at the club. I would probably, if I had to offer a contract to one of them, I would get Billing done.
Absolutely.
And that's not. I like Ryan Christie.
Yeah.
I like Ryan Christie, but that's the way I see it.
I like both the players, but I'm just trying to. It's kind of like creating a debate between us.
Exactly. It's
and there's been a lot of press in the Scottish press over the last sort of couple of weeks about, Christie wants a contract. Christie wants to open negotiations with the club, and he's waiting for the club to do so. But, you know, is it a case that the club's going to start negotiating at midpoint through the season? Or are we looking to the future to bring in new blood? It's just an interesting debate. Who knows what's going to happen? But it's just something to. I just think it's, you know, they're both on their last years of their contract, and you know, there's been no talk about any new deals on the table. So be interesting to see how that develops over the season.
It will be. It will be. Well, there we have it. So, of course, West Ham at home on Saturday. We will be there, won't we, Matt?
Yeah, certainly will be.
Yep. And we will have our free for all on the Sunday at 8 o'clock as well. So do keep your eyes peeled for that as well. That will go up probably Sunday morning, you know, just to let you know, or Saturday night. And the link will be in the description of the YouTube video. It'll also be on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and whatever else that we choose to stick it on. But Manny, thank you again for coming on the show.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And you reckon a 2-1 win for AFC Bournemouth this weekend, and a fantastic start for Iraola. I'm going for a 2-1 win. Matt, we haven't heard your prediction. What are you going for?
Well, like I say, on the head-to-head, I predicted a draw, but now we've made another signing, 2 signings. Obviously, you know, Scott's injured. With the developments at West Ham, you know, they've signed what's his name? We were talking about him on the head-to-head.
Yeah. What's his name?
But,
Don't worry.
Now that they haven't made as many signings as, you know, they were hoping to make, I've changed my mind and I'm feeling confident. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 win.
So there we are. We're all gone for 2-1. There we are.
And let me just say this: if Harry Maguire plays, you can raise it to 3-1.
That's how confident in Maguire Manny is. And on that note, we finish. So thank you everybody for joining us, and we shall see you in the next one. Let's hope Maguire doesn't make another mistake again. There we are. That'd be nice.